Okay, so now we're going to have a bit of a look at redrum and making our own drum beats. This is where it gets good fun, hopefully. So this is a document I was working on the last lesson. I'm going to get rid of a lot of that, and I'm going to start fresh with just a redrum drum computer. I might leave these synth chords because they might add a little bit of texture to the drums and give me something to work from. So again, for the create menu, deselect whatever is in the rack, and I can just go down here and grab a redrum drum computer, push it in there. Now these things up here, these 10 channels, are exactly the same as our channels in our mixers, but they're specifically for various types of drums. So what we can do is when we set up a kit, well, a drum kit, we're going to enter, it just automatically enters 10 different drums that we've got to use in our drum loop. So if we go here into the initialize patch, this is going to load me up a drum kit. Now I'm going to look for something in the hip hop kits. Once again, Reason Factory Sound Bank, only redrum drum kits. And then I'm going to look for some hip hop. I'm going to load in hip hop kit 1. Now you can't audition what the kits sound like until they're inside the rack itself. So you can make your beat and then change the sounds later, which is quite often a good way to work. So all these drums are inside our redrum drum computer now. Right. If we look at the drums, we can see that they're actually named various things. A BD refers to a bass drum, which is the lowest sounding drum that we have to use. A CLP is a clap. An SD is a snare drum. BD again is a bass drum. A bell is just that. SD is snare drum. HH is a hi-hat. HH is a hi-hat. And I'm not sure what nada is. It's a ride cymbal. Okay, you see there that I clicked on the play button in order to hear the sounds individually. Let you hear those. So I can hear each sound individually, and this gives me an idea about what type of sound it is as well. Now, the 3 main types of drums that we use when we're making beats are a bass drum or a kick drum, a snare drum, and a hi-hat. We're replicating a drummer, in theory. So if we look at a drum kit, we can see that down here, this big drum down here is the kick drum because it's kicked by using the foot or a foot pedal, or we also call it the bass drum because it's the lowest sounding drum on the kit. Here is the drummer's snare drum, which is used to add some strong, striking, cracking sounds into the mix. And here we have a cymbal, which is actually a ride cymbal. Here is their hi-hats, which are actually 2 cymbals which are pushed together and make this type of sound. And it actually makes 2 types of sounds because this is also played with the foot and can be open or closed to give a different type of sound. Closed sounding snare is a very short sound. An open hi-hat, is a very long sound. These are our toms on the kit. There's 2 basic tom-toms and a floor tom down here. So this is quite often what these represent up here. So to make a beat, I need to put this section, which is a mini sequencer, without touching any of this stuff, into run. And then I select the channel or the sound that I want to put on the various parts of my sequencer. Now, there's a 16-step pattern here, and these 16 steps represent our 16th notes inside our bar, like we've had a look at before. So the first 4 are the first beat, and then the second 4, second beat. You can see them down here. So there's a 16 steps in one bar. This is exactly what this is representing here. So to put this into run, I'm going to take a bass drum and I'm going to put that on the first beat of the bar. This is generally where the bass drum is placed, and that acts as a method of letting people know where the start of the bar is. The bass drum and the snare drum work independently of one another, and they basically work one, then the other, one, then the other, one, then the other. So I'm going to put a snare drum. I'm going to find one that I like. on the second beat of the bar. Now, not the second step. If I was putting on the second step, we'd get this type of fast 16th note sound, but I'm going to put it on the second beat, which is actually step 5, because the first 4 steps relate to the first 4 16th notes of the first beat. So this is beat 2. Quite often you'll find on beats 2 and beat 4 a snare drum is placed. This method of putting the snare drum there is called creating a backbeat, and it's used in most styles of music. It kind of acts to turn the bar around. I'm going to find a hi-hat that I like, and hi-hats, because they're a higher sounding instrument, can be placed more often than the bass drum and the snare drum. I'm going to put a bass drum back in, I put one on the third beat. We have a very straight sounding pattern, so I'm just going to move it slightly and maybe put another one in for effect. Generally, as less is more, so you'd never put a whole 16th notes of bass drums. If you did, it would just sound incredibly heavy. We can put a few snare drums in if we like around the place. Okay, well, this is sounding like hip hop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the tempo down here. So I'm going to slow it down. You can do this whilst it's playing. Okay, now I'm not happy with the way the kit sounds, so I can change the entire kit now to find a sound that I prefer. If I wanted to change to another style, I could just change the entire kit. It's drum and bass, so I'm going to push the tempo up to about 140. And just without doing anything, not changing the drum patterns at all, let's see what we've got. Immediately, if I search for drums that I like, we have a drum and bass sounding loop. So there's various exercises that I've given you on your worksheets. If you go through those and try and make some beats of your own, quite often it is useful to put in a Dr. Rex loop or two, so you've got something to create beats to.